Hello, writers. Welcome to another writer's workshop. Today's mini lesson or strategy is, primarily used in the planning stage, but it definitely has some uses in the drafting and the revising stage. And I'll show you that in a moment. But the strategy is called word mapping. Now, word mapping is just simply choosing a word. Now, it could be related to your topic. It could be related to a character, an event, or a setting, anything to do with it could be a piece of writing you are writing. So if you are in the drafting stage, it could be something you're writing about, or it could simply just be used to develop some ideas for a text. Now, what you do is you start with one word, could be anything, and then you think of other words or phrases that are related to that word. Don't overthink it. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just brainstorming anything to do with that first word or phrase. Let's have a look at an example of word mapping. So here is an example of just a random word. I chose the word float. And what I did is I then started to think about other words that popped into my head when I thought about the word float. So I came up with water, lightweight, air, boats, swimming, and balloons. From there, I then started to expand on those particular parts. So when I thought about water, I thought some things float. When I went on to lightweight, these things popped into my head. When I got to air, I thought that oxygen makes you float. When I got to boats, there wasn't too much that popped into my head, so I kept on going on to my next words, swimming, these things, and then balloons. Then what I did is I stopped and thought, are there any connections that I can make between my ideas? And these two ones here popped out. And I thought, well, why does oxygen and air float? And then I thought maybe there is an idea for a research project that I could possibly write because I'm interested in that. So there is an example of choosing a random word. Here's another example of where I chose a random word. This one is sink, and I did the exact same process. So there you can see I've expanded and then expanded again. And then I thought about any connections that I could make. And I actually came up with some ideas for some texts that I could write about. Here is an example of where you could use word mapping in the drafting or even the revising stage. So I've chosen a character from a story that I would like to write about. And I chose this because I wanted to make sure that this character is really interesting. So it was Mr. Sutton, based on one of my actual teachers that I had. So I did the same process. So I went around, I thought about words that popped into my head related with Mr. Sutton, and then I went into more detail. I focused those ideas even further. And then from there, I thought about, okay, how can I use this information? And I actually started to come up with a little bit of what I want my character or Mr. Sutton to look like in the story, or how I want the readers to view him. So I want him to be really tall. I want him to have silver hair. And I want one of his, talents to be great with voices. So from that word mapping, I was able to come up with how my character was going to be viewed by my readers. So there are a couple of examples how you can use word mapping. It could be to start a story, or it could be to put more details into a story.